Good evening, I'm Bristol Michael and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. Every young person I know vapes, but did you know older people vape too? Even MPs actually, and one MP did it in Dewan Rakyat, and it was all on camera. Foreign Affairs Minister Hishamuddin Hussain may have thought he could sneak a puff from his vape in Dewan Rakyat. Little did he know, when he did it, the cameras were on Transport Minister Wee Ka Siong, who was sitting right in front of him. The whole thing was caught on camera.
Kementerian Pengangkutan telah melaksanakan soal selidik atas talian mengenai perkara ini.
The video has since gone viral on social media. The incident is believed to have happened on Monday as Wee was delivering his winding up speech. Responding to the video on Twitter, the Sembrong MP apologised, saying he didn't realise as it was a new habit.
Yang berhormat Sembrong iaitu Menteri Luar Negeri merokok vaping pada hari Isnin apabila Menteri Berangkutan menjawab soalan pada sesi soal jawab. Dan Menteri Luar Negeri sendiri Yang Berhormat Sembrong pun sudah mengaku salah dalam akaun Twitter beliau. Iaitu saya rasa lebih elok, lebih baik minta Yang Berhormat Sembrong juga memohon maaf secara rasmi dalam Dewan Yang Mulia ini. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Keluang kita ambil maklum dan kita akan buat penelitian kepada apa yang telah dibangkitkan oleh Kulai.
According to the Dewan Rakyat standing orders, no member shall smoke in the chamber during a sitting. However, the rule doesn't specify vaping. Malaysia has been mulling a national legislation to regulate vaping even since the BN administration in 2015. During Pakatan Harapan's time in Putrajaya, enforcement on vaping ban was still being studied. Most of us at some point have used money changers involving legal tender. But in Dewan Rakyat today, one MP was offered to have his fake 50 ringgit bill exchanged for a real one, which raised a lot of questions like, is that even legal? Based on Bank Negara's guidelines, fake notes cannot be exchanged for real ones. Knowingly trading fake notes is also an offence under the Penal Code. However, that didn't stop Deputy Finance Minister Muhammad Shah Abdullah today from offering to change an MP's counterfeit 50 ringgit note with a real one. The offer was made after Jelebu MP Jalaluddin Alias raised the issue of widespread circulation of counterfeit money, to which even he fell victim to.
Minggu lepas hari Ahad, saya pergi pasar malam. Bila pergi pasar malam, saya dapat lebihan atau wang pulangan, duit not RM50. Duit ini adalah wang palsu. Kerana saya nak guna balik kepada premis yang lain, tak boleh kerana wang palsu. Maknanya, Datuk Speaker, pengedaran wang palsu di dalam negara semakin berleluasa. Timbalan Menteri sedar atau tidak perkara ini, kementerian atau kerajaan masih boleh pantau atau tidak, dan kita tak dengar sebarang tangkapan kepada pengedaran wang palsu sampai hari ini. Sila kemuka kepada saya dan saya akan minta Bank Negara Malaysia untuk menyiasat dan wang RM50 yang berhormat ada, sila bagi kepada kita dan kita akan tukar kepada wang ringgit yang benar.
Dalam banyak-banyak dia kena
Yang kedua,
sila.
Ali Muhammad. Diamlah. Ganti 2 kali ganda Ali Muhammad.
This exchange prompted Kuala Langat MP Dr. Xavier Jayakumar to interject, asking if changing fake notes for real ones was allowed by Bank Negara.
Soalan.
Saya nak tahu tadi Timbalan Menteri kata minta Jelebu untuk bagi balik kalau RM50 palsu itu dia akan tukar. Adakah itu satu kenyataan yang betul ataupun Bank Negara terima ke untuk tukar semua wang yang palsu?
Alright.
Kalau itu betul, you better correct your statement just now. Thank you.
Tapi Yang Berhormat Menteri tak kata secara Bank Negara ataupun secara peribadi. Silakan Yang Berhormat Timbalan Menteri.
Tuan Yang Dipertua, apa yang dibangkitkan oleh Kulangan tadi adalah satu perkara yang saya beritahu secara personal saya. Dan saya kira...
Tuan Speaker, ini Parlimen, Tuan Speaker. Mana ada personal punya view sini.
Betul dia tak cakap tadi.
Saya itu sebab Tuan Yang Dipertua.
Kita kena adil, dia tak cakap tadi.
Saya tak sebut pun, itu sebab saya rasa Ali Muhammad Kulangan, dia ingin bertanya berkaitan prosedur Bank Negara. Bila saya beritahu, pastinya saya bertanggungjawab apa yang saya sebut, Tuan Yang Bertua. Dan saya harap Yang Berhormat Kulangan pun bertanggungjawab apa yang disebut. Terima kasih, Tuan Yang Bertua.
According to guidelines on Bank Negara's website, recipients of counterfeit money are urged to notify and surrender the fake notes to the police. It also said that counterfeit banknotes are not eligible for replacement. Knowingly exchanging fake currency is punishable under Section 489B of the Penal Code. Section 489 of the Penal Code also makes it illegal to knowingly possess fake currency, with a punishment of up to 10 years in jail. The Sivaganga cluster, which was started by a man who failed to comply with the home quarantine order, may have more surprises up its sleeve. Authorities now fear the virus in the cluster could be unusually contagious compared to other clusters. The Health Ministry has expressed fear that the Sivaganga infection cluster that started in Kedah may be linked to a genome of COVID-19, which has been identified as a super spreader in Egypt and Pakistan.
Tapi yang kita lihat sekarang ni, kluster PUI Sivaganga, kluster ni merebak dengan cepat sekali dibandingkan dengan 9 kluster yang kita ada di negeri Sarawak dan sebagainya. Tetapi sekarang ni kajian sedang dijalankan sama ada kita sedang menghadapi satu kluster iaitu genom 614 iaitu yang kluster super spreader. Jadi super spreader telah pun dimaklumkan kepada kementerian iaitu daripada negeri Mesir dan juga di Pakistan. Besar kemungkinan ini mungkin adalah satu kluster super spreader. Tetapi kita kena laksanakan ujian teliti, kita akan tuturkan virus tersebut di makmal dan melihat kepada genomic sequence virus tersebut yang dijangkiti di kluster Sivaganga.
Meanwhile, Dr. Hisham also revealed that the country reported 15 new COVID-19 cases today. Most of it were local infections, with the Sivaganga cluster in Kedah contributing 6 new cases. As of noon today, there were a total of 30 cases attributed to this cluster. Contact tracing involving 2,351 individuals have been conducted in connection with this cluster, and 704 test results are still pending. The Sivaganga cluster was named after a town in India. A restaurant owner returning to Malaysia from Sivaganga initially tested negative for COVID-19. The person then breached home quarantine and later tested positive. With the Slim by-elections set to take place later this month, the government has announced what will and will not be allowed during the campaign period. Senior Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob revealed today that operation centres for political parties as well as campaign events and charamas in closed areas would be allowed in the Slim by-election. The minister said that the SOPs for campaign activities in Slim would follow those implemented in the previous Chini by-election, but with several improvements.
Antara SOP yang dipersetujui termasuklah bilik gerakan parti dan bilik gerakan kecil dibenarkan dibuka sepanjang tempoh pilihan raya termasuk pada hari mengundi dengan syarat mematuhi SOP yang ditetapkan oleh SPR.
Meanwhile, campaign activities and charama events will be allowed to take place in closed or gated areas only to help the monitoring process. But don't expect any mega charamas. Ismail said the number of people at one time is based on the size of the area and it should not exceed 250 people. The parties involved are required to register the operation centres with the Election Commission. Ismail reminded those involved to also follow normal COVID-19 SOPs such as wearing masks and to observe social distancing. The by-election will be held on August 29th with nomination on August 15th. Coming up next in the second part of our interview with Wan Faisal, he explains how Bersatu is the most progressive party in PN. Bersatu is the most progressive Malay party in PN, according to Deputy Minister Wan Faisal. At least that is what he told us in the second part of our interview with him. Let's take a look.
Bersatu might be seen as the smallest among all, but we are the most progressive thus far among all the Malay parties. We are more, I think, nimble, we are more flexible, and we are more open. If you could see that, even like myself and few others, we are even Armada, the youth, could become chief divisions in certain places. Yeah, so you can see that Bersatu is more open. We are not colored by legacy issues or controversies like what happened in other parties, and I believe this would create more positive vibe for Malay youth especially to come and join us so that we can become an alternative for the constituents.
What do you think about the reaction by UMNO President, after the verdict? Do you think that it was it expected? Was it something that, what do you think of that?
Personally, we were caught off guard, definitely, from my personal point of view. But nonetheless, we do understand why President of UMNO made such statement, given the tension at the grassroots level in UMNO party itself with regard to, for example, having Bersatu on board. But I think if you notice, both leaders in Bersatu and UMNO, they were together before. They know each other very well. They have personal bond, and I believe they can manage the differences and strike a consensus with regard to the way moving forward in Perikatan Nasional. The top leaders, if you can see the photo ops, they've been sharing almost on weekly basis. We are moving on the right direction. Yeah, I think we have learned the mistakes done by Pakatan Harapan before, where squabbles are being made public. I think this time around, although we do have some public tension, but Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, being a statesman himself, I think he managed to handle all the component parties, and hopefully with his popularity at the highest level, especially after the trial, we can really convince Malaysians at large that for the next term, please vote for Perikatan Nasional.
Well, then, of course, within Perikatan Nasional, there are quite a number of those who are still having cases in the court. I think how will this affect even in the upcoming election?
Again, as how it was stated by the Prime Minister himself, we believe in rule of law, we champion this, and definitely we allow the court to decide the cases. And we will not compromise about this.
The death toll continues to mount in Beirut as Lebanese rescue teams continue to search for bodies and survivors. Lebanese rescue teams pulled out bodies and searched for missing people on Wednesday from the wreckage caused by a massive warehouse explosion that sent a devastating blast wave across Beirut, killing at least 135 people. Prime Minister Hassan Diab declared 3 days of mourning from Thursday as early investigations blame negligence for the explosion at Beirut port, which has left tens of people missing and injured more than 5,000 others. Up to 250,000 people were left without homes fit to live in, officials said, after shockwaves smashed building facades, sucked furniture out into streets and shattered windows miles inland.
I can't describe the scene. It's painful, the extent of it all. It hurts and it makes me sad. Those who are in Dora have not seen this with their own eyes, but we came this morning and saw, and it's hurting.
The death toll was expected to rise from the blast, which officials blamed on huge stockpile of a highly explosive material stored for years in unsafe conditions at the port. The explosion was the most powerful ever in Beirut, a city still scarred by civil war that ended 3 decades ago and reeling from an economic meltdown and a surge in coronavirus infections. President Michel Aoun said 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate used in fertilizers and bombs was stored for 6 years at the port after it was seized. The government was determined to investigate and expose what happened as soon as possible to hold the responsible and negligent accountable, he said. An official source familiar with the preliminary investigations blamed the incident on inaction and negligence, saying nothing was done by committees and judges involved in the matter to order the removal of hazardous materials. The cabinet ordered port officials involved in storing and guarding the material to be put under house arrest, ministerial sources told Reuters. Officials have not confirmed the origin of the initial blast that sparked the explosion, although a security source and local media said it started by welding work. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'll be back with more tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Prasad Michael. Thank you for watching.